Hi, in this next video we're going to continue on our series on SSIS, and in this video I'm going to go ahead and show you how to execute a stored procedure within MS SQL Server Integration Services. This is probably one of the most common tasks that is implemented when you create an SSIS package. Most of the time, because the person who's creating the package, the SSIS developer, is comfortable working with SSIS integration services from within or executing a T-SQL task within integration services. For those of you who have watched the previous video, you can see that I'm using the exact same package as before. So I've got my SSIS package, which will import data, or actually export data from the merge join. So I'm going to leave this task as it is, and I'm going to drag and drop and execute SQL task. So you can see here that in this particular task we did a merge join on the employee key, and I'm going to replace or I'm going to perform the exact same operation here with the transact SQL task. So I'm just going to call this task a merge join SQL. Alright, and what you'll notice here is we've got the execute SQL task editor, you got the description, you got the timeout, which is the timeout taken for execution of this particular task, and the code page is the ANSI standard Latin general code page. Type conversion mode is allowed, which means that it'll go ahead and convert the types. The important things that you need to do with this task here is you need to set the result set. The result set basically is specifying if there's going to be output at the end of the execution of the SQL statement. You'll see that we have 4 different types of result sets, the first one being none, in which case its statement executes but you don't get any output. A single row, full result set, which would include a table that can contain one or more than one row, and then you got XML output, which contains an XML. So in our case we're going to use a full result set because the end result of the merge join is going to be a table that contains a number of columns as well as rows. I'm going to use an OLEDB connection. You'll see that we've got ODBC, ADO.NET, and a couple of others as well. We're going to use OLEDB because we're connecting to SQL Server, and under connection you'll see that when I click the drop down it already lists the connection string that I created previously. In this case I'm just going to go ahead and create new connection, and I'm going to create one again, mainly for demonstration purposes. I could simply use one that I already created, but since this is a new video I'm going to type in these details again. Again, I'm using IBS training database, which contains a list of training information for a company, and at this point you'll see that I've got the SQL source type as direct input. You'll also see that we've got a file connection, at which point it'll execute the code from within a SQL file, and then you got the variable, which will mean that the SQL statement comes from within a variable in SSIS. Once I use direct input, I'm going to select the SQL statement here, and here I'm going to go ahead and type in select star from employee E, and I'm going to do an inner join on nominations, which is another table I have within the database, which contains details of who are applying for different trainings in this company. And I've got employee ID here, and I join it to nomination ID here, or I'm sorry, employee ID here as well. Right, I'm going to select that, I'm going to parse it, and you can see that it has no effect. If I want, I can always just go ahead and click build query, at which point it'll open up a designer, and in the designer I can go ahead and execute my query as it is. You'll see that there's an error in my SQL statement, namely because the employee table doesn't exist, so I got that name wrong. It's actually employees, so let me go ahead and just type in employees there. Right, and when I execute it, you'll see that it's fetching data for employees. If I just expand it, you'll see that I've got the data showing up here. So at this point, the merge operator that I had in SSIS is being replaced just by a direct SQL statement that I have here. And once this SQL statement executes, you'll see that I've got a full result set. So I need to come here under under the result set tab on the left hand side, and I need to tell the task what to do with the output of the query. So if I click add here, you'll see that it says new result name. I'm going to specify this as 0, mainly because this is a requirement from within the integration services package. Essentially what it's saying is that you need to go ahead and specify 0 as the name of the table output. Now the output is going to be a table, but where do I put it? That's the next question. So in this case you'll see that the transact SQL statement will execute, but the result output always needs to be mapped to a variable. You don't see any other options here. So since we don't have one already, I'm going to create a variable. I'm going to click new variable, and I'm going to define the scope of the variable as being available for all other tasks within the package. So I'm selecting the package task up here. I'm going to call the name of the variable as nominations, and the context of the variable is going to be under user. You can also go ahead and change this and just call it datasets or something. It doesn't matter, it's up to you to give it a name that's kind of helps you identify the context in which the variable is going to be used. Now this is going to be an object because it's going to go ahead not just store a single string or an integer or a date, it's going to actually store a result set. So because it's going to store a result set, I need to use the object data type, which I've just gone ahead and selected, and I press OK. So at this point the variable is set, and if I press OK, this particular join or this particular transact SQL statement in this variable is now going to go ahead and store the data from the transact SQL statement that I executed. The best way to identify whether this data is actually being used is to, just for demonstration purposes here, obviously, I'm going to go ahead and drag and drop a for each loop container, and I'm going to connect the merge join with the for each loop container, and I'm double clicking the container. In the container you'll see that I've got the enumeration type for collections, and in here I'm going to go ahead and use ADO enumerator, and in the ADO enumerator I'm going to select the data coming from the variable called dataset nominations. So essentially, if there is data in this particular result set or in this variable, depending on how many rows there are in the dataset, it's going to do that many iterations. So you'll see that it says rows in the first table, right? So ideally, if there is data, this for each loop container is going to go through a couple of different number of iterations. So since I want to run this now, I don't want the first task to run, so I'm going to right click and disable it, and then I'm going to press the debug button on the top, and it's going to start the execution of the code. So you'll see that that's done, and you'll see that this guy is going round and round, which means that essentially he is doing iterations. Best way to find that out is to just wait for it to do its iterations. Yeah. And with each iteration you'll see that it's progressing, right? Another way that you could do this is, it's done with the iterations, right? So that would only happen if there was data in the underlying result set, or else it would have just failed saying that the task is empty. And that's essentially how you use the transact SQL statement or the execute SQL task. And I've also shown you a slide demo on how to use the ADO.NET operator inside the for each loop container, which we will go ahead and explore in much more detail in an upcoming video. I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you for watching.